Welcome back to the second annual Nat King Cole Generation Hope Educators Conference. In our final hour together, I would like to introduce you to Ms. Shauna St. John, Executive Director of Nat King Cole Generation Hope. I've known Shauna for over 6+ years while I was a K-12 arts administrator for the school district of Palm Beach County. She's an amazing woman with so much passion for arts education and a heart of gold. I want to personally thank you for inviting me to be a part of this year's conference as a facilitator, and I look forward to future opportunities of collaboration. In addition, I would like to thank and recognize Shauna's administrative assistant, Ms. Glenda Leiter. Your behind the scenes work has been simply amazing, and we want to thank you so much for the work you've done. Now, let's welcome Shauna to the virtual platform. Good afternoon, Shauna.
Hi, Edrick. Thank you so much. And it's us that are grateful for you. You have been amazing these past 3 days, and you were the perfect choice, even though I really didn't give you a choice to say no. But that's how it is with the Nat King Cole Generation Hope. Once you're in, you're in. I'd like to take this moment to, first, I need to say thank you to all of our sponsors. The Selz Foundation, who sponsored this conference today, as well as sponsors who support us throughout the year. Mark and Mary Freitas, the Natalie Cole Foundation. And we also wanted to give a quick shout out to the Kennedy Center. Not only did we get Edrick from them, but we also had another speaker from them today, and she was incredible as well. They're the incredible resource, and we're very honored to be able to be working with them. I wanted to say thank you to our board of directors. Of course, Timolyn and Casey Cole, the twin daughters of Nat King Cole, who started this organization in 2008. They really have a vision for making sure that all children have access to music education, and they're just incredible women. We also, we have one other board member, Kristen Huffins. She is out in California, and she came on board, and she's just a dynamo as well. So we're very grateful for her. Edrick mentioned my my cohort here, Glenda. It's just the two of us. We're small and mighty, and she's amazing, and I can't do anything without her as well. She pretty much runs the ship. Of course, Edrick, who you've been speaking with, but there's also Terrence in the background. He's the computer. And when you look on your screen, you'll see computer. He's our IT guy for this all 3 days, and he's been amazing. And he's the one that's prepping all the videos for you guys, which will be on our website as well as our YouTube page after this. I also want to thank, we've had interns for the past couple weeks who are actually Nat and Maria Cole Memorial Scholars. Aiden, Caleb, and Matthew, they've been behind the scenes helping us do everything as well. They're our internal IT help. They're wonderful young men. Actually, Caleb just graduated, and he has already gotten his job as a band director here in South Florida, and he starts next week. And he's amazing. While Aiden and Matthew are currently attending university, one in Texas and one here in Florida, and both of them want to be music educators as well. So we have loved having them here. Our speakers and artists who have been here all week, I am learning so much. I love my job, but I just love being part of this collective. The ecosystem, now I'll be calling it that, but I am just excited for all the information, and I'm going to be going back to it, I'm sure, to pick up what I can. And then, of course, all of you, the participants, everyone who's been on for the past 3 days, and then everybody who's going to be joining, because I'm sure we all have Zoom lag. But anyone who is going to be watching this in the future as well, it's so important for us all to be working together. And we want you to know that we are a resource for you. You can contact us anytime. We may not have all the answers, but we have a way of getting to people and finding answers for you and finding support. So please consider us a place that you can count on. What you do is so important. You're on the front lines, and we're here for you. I mentioned that the sessions are going to be on. I'm looking at my notes. I mentioned for you to contact us. And I guess how I want to end this is, as you go into the new school year, we know it's still challenging, but what you do is so important. These kids need you. You are so important, and we love you and everything that you do for these kids. The next thing I want to do, oh, my favorite part. So Nestor Torres is our guest artist for our last session today. He is so amazing, and the word passion was mentioned many times in the past 3 days. You're going to feel it jump off the screen. He is a Grammy Award-winning flautist, regular Grammys and Latin Grammys. He has supported our programming for many, many years. He's actually was a performer for one of our fundraising events, but he also comes to our summer camps. And it's amazing to see when he comes in the passion, and you'll see it in a second, but when he's there with those kids for our string camp, which are elementary kids, and he comes in with a flute, and they're all wondering what's going to happen, what are we going to be doing, and he comes in with a flute, and he conducts a master class of improvisation, and he can get a kid that's in third or fourth grade, and they start talking to each other with their instruments, and then he brings in everyone else, and it's like so collaborative, and you get goosebumps, and the kids feel so much when he's there. I invite you to, if any of you are interested in somehow collaborating with him. He loves working with children, and he loves working with different organizations. I am happy to connect you, and I've gotten permission to connect you. So I guess what I want to say is he's amazing. Really listen to what he's saying. And then, of course, enjoy his incredible music. He is an incredible musician. And when we put up the YouTube, I'll make sure that I put in his website so you can listen to more of his music. And I guess that's it. We're going to end on a high note with, pun intended, with Nestor. And again, thank you to Edrick and to the board and the staff and the sponsors and the teachers and just everyone. It's been a wonderful 3 days, and we have been honored to serve all of you. And I guess that's it. I'm going to turn it over to Terry. He's going to set up the video, and please enjoy. Thank you so much.
So Nestor, thank you for being with us today. It's been a pleasure. Welcome to Nat King Cole Generation Hope Music Education Conference this year. We've had so many great presenters, and to top it off with your presence and your expertise here, it's been a blessing, and we're just thrilled to have you.
Well, thank you very much, Edrick. And in fact, it's my honor to be part of such a distinguished group of professionals, of educators, of people that are so passionate, towards music education. I'm deeply impressed. I'm deeply inspired. And, when Shana told me about this, Shane Johnson, of course, I have contributed just a little bit to the folks at Generation Hope over the years. Just to be part of this, I have learned so much. And what can I do? What, as a performing artist, as someone that, has been blessed with having had a musical education, and is making a living and struggling as it is, but keeping art is my life. How can I continue? How can I support? How can I make a new beginning with all of you towards really strengthening and returning to the basics of culture and music in education in this country?
Well, you know what? This is going to be all over the world, and when people can have access to this video, if you could just give us just a brief story of how you started your career in music, and then maybe follow up and just tell us and show us through your expression of music, through anything you would like to play, your story.
Well, for me, it's such a great privilege to be part of this conference, because it really comes back to, the work that you are all doing, is just a manifestation, or rather a confirmation of how my life, was transformed. The path that my life took is because of the work of your predecessors. Back in Puerto Rico, my music teachers, musical education, Mind you, my father was a musician, but he was also very strict. And he said, if you're going to become a musician, then you have to become the best. And for that, you need an education. So starting with the Escuela Libre de Música, when I started middle school, that's where I learned the basics. Yes, I was taking flute lessons, but I was also learning solfege, sight reading, the basics of music and music theory, playing in band, then moving on to school. And it was that foundation upon which I am now, living my life and pursuing my mission. So um, as I continued performing, the thing about it though, it was that listening to someone like a Hubert Laws who went to Juilliard, and also went to, while he was in Juilliard, he was also performing with Mongo Santa Maria, playing Latin jazz in New York in the early 60s, and that in itself echoed somewhat into, what my experience turned out to be. When I moved to New York, I went to, Mannes School of Music, and then in Boston in the conservatory while I was playing in the Latin clubs in town, playing this style of Cuban music called charanga. But looking back up on those early days for me, I was able to do those things and be in these places and pursue higher education because of the groundwork in the music schools, or the music that I was being taught in elementary and middle and in high school. I am profoundly grateful for that. And so it is that, I'm just so joyful to be celebrating with you, and just looking towards the future as to how can we strengthen and revive that sense of priority in education, for music within the educational system.
Great, great. No, that's strong. I really appreciate that. As we're starting the new school year around the country with school districts, what would you suggest to teachers, to have that student coming from Puerto Rico? My mom was born and raised in Camagüey, Cuba, and so it's a humbling and very overwhelming experience for that student that's coming into a new area, new environment, new culture. What would be words of encouragement to music educators on inclusion and feeling accepted in this day and age, from your perspective or your thoughts?
Your question is a very important and poignant one. How can music educators, welcome students that come from different places? The first word that comes up is to be embracing, to be accepting, to be welcoming. But I know that it can be so difficult. It may seem almost impossible because I have not had the privilege of being in a position of being a music educator for elementary, middle school, high school. But the daunting challenges of having no resources, no commitment, having to, in Spanish, there's a say, sacarlo de donde no lo tienes, to bring it forth from wherever it is that you do not have it, it really takes a toll toll. So my real appreciation to all of you who have done this and keep doing it day in and day out, adapting to an ever more hostile environment. And so it is that whereas I say you must become embracing, I acknowledge and respect the fact that you cannot become effectively embracing if you're not being embraced yourself. So, but here we are. And so this is where now my offering or my thoughts and my heart, in sharing with you during this conference is not so much, or it's really about you. It's about each and every one of you. What is your struggle? What is your dream? What is your passion? What is your commitment? What is it that makes it so that you're doing what you're doing? Is it because it's a job and you need to keep it? I honor that. It's very real. It's very, commendable. Is it because you wanted to do it and then, you got stuck in it? Is it because you're really, truly passionate about it? Whatever the reasons or the motivation is for you all to be doing what you're doing, ultimately, you have to make the choice of whether this will really be your mission that you will take the initiative on, and that you will become ultimately triumphant. However, that triumph or victory will manifest, because there's so many different circumstances, situations, or whether you will succumb to, the stagnation and the apathy and the cynicism of our current educational system. And I'm sorry to be so strict about that, but that's what that is. So how do we revive that? So, in other words, to revive a system, we must revive that sense of mission, that sense of passion from within us. And how do we get to do that individually? That is a great challenge, and I don't, there's no easy answers, but what I can tell is that it is possible. And that, to come back to the original question, if we're able to take that on, to have compassion for ourselves, and it's pretty, but if we don't have the compassion for ourselves, we just have to bring forth the courage. Have the courage to say, I am here and this is what it is, and I am going to transform it no matter what. And I have the power to influence the lives of countless people. And out of the 10 or 20, one or two, those lives might be transformed. And if I get one, or if I get two, and I know you know this much better than I do, then you have already won. Absolutely. Because their victory is your victory. And so it is about that sense of struggling, glorious battle that allows you then to really bring forth the courage and the conviction to embrace, wow. No matter what, and no matter how cynical they are. And somebody just comes up to me, something comes up for me that somebody said, and I'm sure you've heard this, is like, when somebody's really mean, or they're being negative, or they're anger, it is because they are suffering. So how can we, relate, or, relate to the reality of the fundamental causes of the hostilities that both the administration, or the people that, you need to report to, as well as the children, that they're suffering? And how can you alleviate their suffering? Not by you becoming a martyr yourself, but by you really developing the kind of life condition and strength of character and resilience that will not be affected by all that stuff. And that you can hold steady. Oh, this person is suffering. Oh, this person, is really ignorant. Oh, and of course you need to stand up for justice at times. Other times you need to be, as I said, compassionate and tolerant. And other times you really have to stand up and speak out. So, but whatever way it is, as long as it comes from you to really realize how remarkably passionate you are. I mean, yes, passionate and important you are. That's the important thing. And if I just may say, add one more thing, I am a performing artist, right? And I'm very blessed, and I'm very grateful. I have a Latin Grammy, have been nominated, have played for presidents, have played with Dave Matthews and Herbie Hancock, Tito Puente. I am so grateful to be able to do that. And I touch the lives of many people. But I'm aware that the way I touch the lives of these many people is through the music, whether it's a concert, whether it's the records. But you're touching the lives of young people every day. From the hundreds to the thousands, you really have so much power. You really are at the helm of real transformation for society. Through your resilience and your passion, you can transform the life of one leader. All it takes is one that will really go on to transcend and change the world. And this is the power of education, and this is the power of music, because it really comes down to the power of the heart and the power of the spirit. So, Edrick, that was an intense question, man. You really,
yeah, it is, and thank you for your transparency. And I hear people say, "Oh, I'm going to speak my truth," but you just spoke the truth. So I really definitely appreciate that. And just more another question for you: what inspires Nestor Torres?
Believe it or not, and I don't mean to sound young people, and I get emotional just now. I'm surprised how much I'm getting. Young people inspire me. I'm here in Mobile, Alabama. Forgive me, I have to fall to temptation. I try it. It's not going to be very good. It's like Mobile, Alabama. I'm a part of a jazz festival, and they have a summer camp for kids. And I had the opportunity to work with what I would call a motley crew. Like, there's a 10-year-old drummer that is self-taught. The bass player is 14 years old and has a mentor. He's just starting to play. Then you have a 21-year-old graduate that is playing the piano, and then you have a kid that plays, like trumpet and flute and sax, and he just picked up the flute the other day. He's playing great. So working with them is just such a reminder of and I reminded them of how many expectations and how much we're devoted to raising them. And so young people really inspire me a great deal. uh, I happen to be Puerto Rican and an artist, and I'm a romantic, so yeah, romance is another thing. But when you when you become older, then romance becomes, it goes beyond the telenovelas or the rom-coms. It's just a romance of life itself, of this grand epic of living, as you say. So my inspiration comes to that, and ultimately from a sense of how can I inspire others. I have a talent, I have a gift. How can I use it to serve? Because only then will I ultimately, I know that only then will I be able to really find a sense of satisfaction and fulfillment. Everything else is fleeting. So it's that sense of mission. I guess that's what inspires me, a sense of mission, a sense of purpose to what I'm doing.
Fantastic. I really appreciate that. Would you mind sharing us some any kind of excerpt of anything we can listen to?
Oh, you want me to play some music? You want me to play you want me to play this?
Absolutely. I think everyone does.
Well, it's funny, but we're talking about my education, right? So I guess let me share something with you, and I'll go back to my experience. I talked about Hubert Laws, and check him out. I mean, to me, there's Hubert Laws, and then there's the rest of the flautists, the flutists in the world, because he was really the very first, and he, to me, is a flautist, that with a full classical formal training in Juilliard, he brought that approach and the repertoire to jazz. And so when I heard him, he set such a standard. And I guess that really applies to us. How can we as educators set such a standard, whether it is of knowledge or passion or execution, that our students and those around us can oh, I want that. I can be like that. I had no choice but to pursue higher education in classical music and flute, and that's where I really discovered Bach. And there's this great work of his, De Partita in A minor for solo flute. There are some who argue that it was not for flute, but the flutists have really taken it on. And so I did this. I've studied it for many years, studying at the New England Conservatory, and eventually I did my own take on it. So this is as a reflection of formal education and then what you do with it, combining education and training with your roots and where you come from. This is my version of Alamanda a la Latin Jazz by Johann Sebastian Bach, arrangement by yours truly. It goes like this.
Bravo. Awesome. Great.
I was nervous. I mean, playing for all of you. I usually don't get nervous, but such a distinguished audience. Very much nervous. But yes, thank you for allowing me to play for you.
Thank you for that treat. Question for you. I'm a classical horn player. My dad was a band director for over 30 years in Miami-Dade County. So I grew up around band. My two uncles were band directors. My brother was a band director. So I was born in the band room. But when I hear you perform, and you gave a classical and then you went into a jazz rendition, students, if they want to pursue jazz or classical, is there one before the other? Chicken before the egg chicken, or potato? Is there an angle that we must follow first? From your thoughts, can a kid go right into jazz, or should they be exposed to the classical and understand the basics of the classic? What are your thoughts there?
Well, my first thought, you always want to do long notes and slow scales. Whether you're doing Nocturne en Gobert, whether you're doing modes or chord changes, it's about the sound and it's about the technique. Now, depending on the instrument, you have an opportunity to make a choice. I will give you a subjective answer, understanding that it may not be applicable for everyone.
Right.
I believe strongly that being who we are in terms of the realities of our culture, Western, it is based on a Western European culturally based, that and even all music, pop music, any music has those ingredients of Western European music, and there's certain basic components of it. I strongly encourage to really study that, because it's so demanding, and the level of discipline and the level of the mastery that it requires is great, and it can only make you better. Now, I understand, and Edrick, to your point, I'd like to hear your comments on this, because my experience is very spontaneous. My father was a musician. He played by ear, so I know what it is like to play by ear, just pick things up. And so improvisation was kind of natural. Whereas I have heard, and the experience is that in classical training, classical music, the training is about really bringing what's on the paper to life, which I think is a remarkable, skill and art to develop. But somehow an illusion is created that when you're trained to write what's on the page, then you're not able to improvise or to be spontaneous with music making. It's really an illusion, because it's all there. When I said, long notes and scales, anybody, okay, here we go. It's an exercise. You don't have to read it, but what happens if you do? And then, I'm discovering, or just by trying different long notes, you're already improvising. Or you're just playing scales, but anything you try, anything in that scale, in any juxtaposition or arpeggio, you're playing it. It's only notes, long notes and scales and arpeggios, you know? And
Yeah.
so, but there's so much more to it, the context and the styles and so on and so forth. So ultimately is you know, I would encourage, always go to the basics, always go to the basics. Everybody should know piano, everybody should know harmony, everybody. I regret that I did not pursue, that I stuck with my piano studies. I have very limited knowledge, you know. Then again, and let me bring this back to you. Let's face it, there is a reality that there are a cadre of extraordinarily talented kids that can make music but don't know an inch, an iota of the music note, are not interested in any formal training. But you give them an instrument, or you give them, you know, like, you know, a laptop or some sounds, and they will come up with incredible stuff. You know, how do we steer those young people to do their very best with what they have? How do we challenge ourselves? How do we expand our capacity to see if we can help them in some way that defies the standard, you know, context?
Well, it's funny you say that, because I remember when I had, as a high school band director, I had a jazz band, and when I would have my rhythm section, I had many students who were classically trained, and I was classically trained, and that's what you learn. You got to read music, got to read music, got to read music. And then one day I made an announcement for any kid on campus who plays at a church, drum set and piano, report to the band room after school. And so a couple kids came in, they were like, I was told to report here. I said, just play something for me. And he's like, I don't have anything prepared. I said, just play whatever you want. But what I found was those students that grew up in church and was trained by ear, they had a feel that it was like the it factor. Like I couldn't, but I wanted them in my jazz band because the ones who could read would acclimate the it factor. They didn't probably have it. They could just, whatever's on paper, they can play whatever sus chords, dominant five with a seventh on top with a minor. They could do all of that theoretically, but sometimes, you know, I had to appreciate that kid would play by ear, because they were just doing things that was unteachable at that level, at the high school level. And I couldn't sometimes even explain what they were doing, because they were hearing chords in church or in their communities that was just really unreal before the time.
And to your point, and you know, you're bringing up that's where the part of being embracing comes in. You know, because the reality is, and you know, once again, you have so much more experience than all of you than I do. When you are in the band room, you know, you got to work with what you've got.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it is not just about talent or what degree of talent or lack thereof, but you know, you can have the talented that could not give two hoots. You could have the ones that have not an inch of quote unquote talent, but are so passionate and so badly want to do it. How do you address, and I cannot imagine, you know, the daunting challenge of addressing, oh, and by the way, and you have no time, all you have is 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all the time you have. And then you have so many others and so many. So how can you make that, you know, how can you embrace them? And I guess that it's a matter of that sense of empowerment, empowering them, the individuals, and it comes up to the level of respect. And if you allow me, there is a Buddhist fable, or there's this, I forget the word in English, but there's a story about a particular, you know, Buddhism comes from, you know, India and Shakyamuni, and so it goes that he many lifetimes was different, you know, individuals, but this particular bodhisattva, his name was Bodhisattva Never Disparaging, and his practice was to praise people. You know, he would bow deeply before them with palm stretches together. I praise you and I venerate you. Why? Because you are a Buddha and you are going to be, you know, all kinds of things, just praising their Buddha nature to everyone. And so it was so crazy at the time that people would just like throw him staves and staffs and stones, and but he would still do it. So he would just put himself at a distance so that they couldn't, you know, hit him, but he would still praise. You know, you are amazing. You know, you're a Buddha. And so that kind of practice, you know, because of that practice, eventually he was born as Shakyamuni. But the story is about how are we able to, and forgive me that there's a phone call that came in that I'm declining. We are live in Zoom, folks. So um, how can we activate or acknowledge the the divinity or the Christos or the fundamental enlightenment or potential of each individual? Just by simply I appreciate or hello and mean it. And sometimes can be really difficult to, some folks, but addressing their individuality and appreciate them and respect them in their uniqueness, which of course, it demands that we have to respect ourselves in our own uniqueness and come from that place of a strong sense of self acceptance and worth and empowerment, that however limited our capacities might be, I will do my best, and you know I am here so that you can do your best too, kind of a thing.
Mhm.
It's remarkable, but it's anytime that I have an opportunity to go to your rooms, and to work with your students is such a privilege, because I know that it's easy for me to come in for an hour and just say nice things and everything, but you're all in every day, and impacting their lives. And human nature has it that when your parent or your spouse or your children, they tell you things that you need to hear, you absolutely have no interest. It goes one here and goes the other. But then some stranger comes in and says exactly the same thing. You say, "Oh my God, that's the most unbelievable thing I have heard." And then, of course, you want to like beat him up. I didn't say that. Of course, you never want to beat him up. Never mind. Can you cut that? Oh, I'm sorry, we're live.
Right. You just want to embrace them a little bit more.
Yeah, yes. I listen. I acknowledge that my thoughts or views might sound sometimes a bit unattainable and idealistic, but it's the only way.
Right.
And it's the most rewarding way, as you all know, really, ultimately.
Right. And just in this last part of our dialogue, thank you again, Mr. Torres. You're saying you're in Mobile right now, this jazz camp, jazz event, and you're dealing with different age groups and what have you.
Yeah.
What is that like? With people coming in with different, you know, jazz is a whole lot different in that area than maybe as it is in maybe the Northeast and what have you. What what mindset as you walk into that, hearing the spectrum of just a different style and a different approach and different age groups? You're saying this drum set player, just doing it. What how does how do you, when you walk into a setting like that, what's your mindset?
First of all, open-minded. What's
Mhm.
going on? Okay, so what is in here? Once I see, non-judgment. There can be absolutely no judgment, because you know how easy it is to become judgmental right away. And so just finding your way. And I'm just speaking specifically about what happened today, and the way I did it. It was not what I expected. I thought it was going to be a bigger. I mean, these folks here have been so wonderful and so gracious, and that based on the efforts that they had made, so that I could make these classes, to teach these classes coming 2 days earlier, that there would be quite a big group of folks that
Mhm.
already have been playing. Was not the case. It was just maybe a total of about 6 or 7. And as I said, very different. Okay, so what is happening here? So then I get, okay, so let me, oh, what do you want to do? No, no, I'm here for you. Whatever you like to play. Okay, well, just like you to play with us, Song for My Father. Believe it or not, I had forgotten about Song for My Father until I really heard it. And I had to have the chart. But so they played it, and it was like, wasn't this kid supposed to be like a virtuoso or something? But he can barely, but I'm just observing. There's no judgment, so once I hear and get a feel, then I start asking questions to the individual. Always acknowledge each individual.
Yeah.
Get to hear them. How are you? How old are you? How long have you been playing? Oh, so get to really get information from the individuals and then respond accordingly. It turns out that the 10-year-old child everybody's excited about, nobody has taught him anything. He's completely self-taught.
Wow.
And he was playing, I'm not a drummer. I mean, I played drums when I was like a little kid, but basic little things about the technique, the way he was using his arm, using the wrist. And it was remarkable how quickly he picked up, little things like that. And so each individual trying to find something to start from, And then of course be mindful of their teachers, because you have to, I have to, and I'm always mindful of the professors, of the mentors that are always there, trying to perceive what is their approach and how to support what they're doing. See, so that's how I go about it. So once again, open mind, find out, fact finding, try to perceive, get a feel for it, then approach as much as you can individually to continue to get information, and then from that respond. Every opportunity of, like, the kid, a 10-year-old kid, I give, am I giving you? So I was telling him, I mean, he didn't even know about a measurement. So I'm telling him, 2, 3, 4, and okay, and then what about keeping time and backbeat? Oh, well, you know about a measure? Yeah, well, you have to keep this in mind with the eight notes. Am I giving you too much information? Yes, you are. It's a little overwhelming. Okay, I back up, but in the meantime, I continue, and he was able to get something from it.
Right.
That's a 10-year-old that has never taken a lesson in his life, but that we can do that. Then, there's this, gentleman, and older, an adult, that's been playing piano for a year. Unfortunately, I got to, spend less time with him, but it's all about the young ones, you see. Then, so it's about really being able to address the situation as you find it. And with whatever training you have, with whatever experience you have, you work with what you've got.
Right.
And if you don't have it, then you ask. You can even ask the same person, what do you think about this? Well, why do you think there is always that element of interaction, of exchange? I have a confession to make. This is purely personal. The relationship of teacher and student for me is not a teacher from above teaching the students from below, but rather, how can we work together side by side? How can we learn together? How can we grow together? And the growth and development of a student or a child is completely, correlated to the growth and development of the teacher. And in the end, after all it's said and done, all we can do is all we can do. Each child, each student, they're their own individual with their own path, with their own karma. They will not, they may not. But like the writer Isabel Allende said once, I heard her say that the love you give, no one can take away from you.
Absolutely.
So what you offer to your students, what you offer in your calling, is something that enriches your life and stays with you forever.
Absolutely. Well, we have about maybe 7 minutes left, and I think if we can hear you play, we would just sit here and melt away. So
Well,
by
once
all
again,
means, please.
no, it's all about, it's you, the ones that really are in the front lines. And I congratulate you, Edrick, if I may call you so, with your achievements and your continued commitment to serving and to creating and to supporting all of us in what we're doing. It's you are and I don't mean to kowtow or flatter you, but I see you as against the background of the Kennedy Center, and you really are such a beacon of hope and such an inspiration of your achievements. And each and every one of you in this conference together, we really are that, should we choose to acknowledge it. And this is what really brings to mind a song, and to conclude with a song that I always like to conclude my performances with, because it has a timeless meaning. Because it allows me to talk about the rainbow, and the rainbow, and I'm going to talk a little bit about it more here than I usually would, because I trust that you'll appreciate or understand this more or better. In that, on the one hand, when we get to see the beauty of the rainbow, not in spite of the rain or in spite of the storm or the darkness, it's because of it, because of the storm and the dark and the rain, that sooner or later we get to see the rainbow. Why? Because no matter what's going on, or no matter how stormy or dark or rainy, the sun is always shining above, and sooner or later its rays are going to pierce through the clouds and the rain, and that's when we see the beauty of the rainbow. Another aspect of the rainbow that is so inspiring to me is that there are 7 distinct colors, almost but not quite blended with each other. Each of the colors of the rainbow retains its own quality, while displaying its beauty next to the other colors. And so this is who we are, black and white and purple and green and yellow. And so we are so different, from so many different perspectives and backgrounds, but yet we come together. And if we're able to acknowledge that it is not that we have to get along in spite of how different we are, but because we're so different, that's why the possibilities are so much greater. See? And so in the end, it comes down to how we can really remember that. And one of the things to remember is that just like the sun is always shining above, as long as we're alive, we have that sun of infinite possibility within us. And according to how we have lived, just like the stars that we see the light of the stars that have long gone, even after we're gone, depending we've lived, that light can continue to shine for so many others. So I pray and hope that we can all remember that, so that when it gets really dark and really cloudy and really stormy, that we can bring forth that light from within, that sun of infinite hope from within, so that then we can bring a magnificent rainbow of hope for ourselves, for our families, our students, our communities. And that's how we bring some hope to our countries and eventually the entire world. So thank you for allowing me to be with you. And, until the next time that we meet, and hopefully personally.
Absolutely. The world-renowned Nestor Torres, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. We love you, my brother.
Thank you so very much and congratulations. Thank you so very much to all of you. Until the next time.
Thank you.
Well, my friends, that concludes day 3 of the Nat King Cole Generation Hope Educators Conference. It's been a pleasure being with you all. I thank you to our presenters, Ms. Jeanette McCune, Rachel Glodo, and renowned artist Nestor Torres, who recorded our session from his hotel room yesterday due to another performance in Alabama today. Just a tremendous and wonderful experience for all. And so we just really appreciate Nestor for his time. I also want to thank the Nat King Cole Generation Hope and the Cole twins for their gracious contributions to the music education field. Lastly, I want to thank you, the audience, for taking part in our sessions. We appreciate your participation. You know, as we embark on another school year, I ask that we all stay mindful and thoughtful regarding equity and access in our schools. We facilitate an environment that our students feel most safe, thoughtful, and creative. Have a great start to the new year and be safe. Thank you again for attending, and we hope to see you next year at the Nat King Cole Generation Hope Educators Conference. Have a great rest of the day. Thank you.